Good evening, everyone. We are live, and hopefully we are also streaming live on YouTube. This is our first time doing that. For now, it'll be on my channel. We'll just see how it goes. We're trying this out to see if we can stream. But that's just FYI. If you know somebody who's not, my channel is, I guess that would be good to tell people. My channel is just called Jessica Travis. Oh, and we are streaming. Okay.
You are. Good. You know it.
The channel is Jessica Travis. It looks like it's frozen, but it says live.
It's going.
So yeah. So my channel on YouTube is called Jessica Travis. And if you guys know, for now at least, if you guys know someone who's not on Facebook, but you'd be like, oh, I've always wanted to share this with this person, but they don't come on Facebook, they can go over to YouTube and catch our show tonight. It should be available. Okay, so what we wanted to talk about tonight, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, because I have been doing a lot of research on this. It has a lot to do with my own personal experience with it, is addiction. And it's just so stigmatized. And I think back all the time, I think about my dad and him being an alcoholic, and even just saying that, like, nobody would say it until after he died. Like, after he died, nobody knew that he was. And like, I think probably if any of his family on his side are watching this, it'd be like, what are you doing? Like, don't talk about him like that, you know.
Don't put our business out there. Don't put our business out there.
Right. But that's part of the problem. So the more like, you know, that was my dad. He died too young, and he was in pain. And so that's what I started researching, this Gabor Mate. He is a specialist in addiction, but not just him. I've been doing a lot of research on addiction, dopamine, norepinephrine or adrenaline, and like the biochemistry of it. But I love the way that Gabor Mate defines it, because he says it's any behavior. Hey, hi guys, by the way, and you see the crawler, listen to this definition and see if by this definition, do you have any addictions? Okay. Any behavior that has negative consequences, but a person continues to crave it, whether it's for pleasure or for relief, and to relapse into it despite it having negative consequences. And we're not talking about going to jail. Any negative consequences. So think about the workaholic who, you know, this person is at home, wishes they were at work. They're looking for that kick. They want to excite and release those brain chemicals. And it's like, let me get back to work. That's where I feel alive. And so when they're at home, they're ignoring their family. The kids are like, Dad, you know, Mom, Dad. And it's like, all they can think about is work. That is addiction too. It's like a spectrum. Coffee. Look about that. Enough of family secrets. We all suffer. Thank you, Valerie. You know, I love to have family secrets. You know what I'm talking about. Chocoholic. Okay, so yeah, food is on that spectrum. Hello. Obesity.
Or especially things that you have to do. You just need to do it in a healthy manner. Not everybody, but most people need to work. Maybe one mate does and the other one doesn't. But you have to make a living. You have to eat at some time. You can't just fast all the time. So you know that makes it even harder in some respects. And I like what you're saying about the stigmatism towards it, because people think of an addict, they think of, oh, you have to be using hardcore drugs or something like that. And because of those consequences can be so, what's the right word? Because all of them can be bad. But as far as so not in your face, but so it definitely can change the person's personality.
Oh yeah.
It can change how they can function and things like. Whereas if you're a workaholic, you can have a great personality, within work or whatever the family and kids don't know you, but you could have a great personality. So it's not as direct. Meanwhile, those kids are suffering. The relationship is suffering, and you're missing out. You're missing out.
Point, because substances change you psychoactively. So when you have cocaine in your system, you act differently than when you working out and you exercise and you just have to exercise. When you're exercising, you don't get high to the point of, you're acting crazy and tweaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true. That is so true. But we were just talking about it before we went live, about even with work. So just last night, I'm sure most of you are aware there was a Super Bowl yesterday. And I don't know where you stand. I don't know. Woo, that was a whooping. But anyway.
Yes.
Stand on that game, but there was very, very, and the other thing that I was just going to mention is when you're a workaholic, you're praised for that.
Yeah.
You ain't getting no praise for being an alcoholic. And a workaholic, like, yeah, man, look at him. So my example was Tom Brady. Now, I am not saying he's addicted, but why does this man eat, sleep, and drink football when he's got nothing left to prove? And I was looking up, and I mean, I have much respect. He's 43. It's incredible what he's accomplished. But I was just looking up a little bit of background, and I saw this article about the fact that his wife at one point was like, you've got to give me something or this is over, because I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
She was like, I think Forbes top earner. They are set. Okay. Just with her alone, she made so much money as a supermodel, and she left that. And she left that to be a wife. And
somebody had to. Somebody.
That's right. She said, I'm going to have children. I'm going to, devote to, and she kind of, in this article was like, and I expected him to kind of back away too and give us a little more. And he was like, football.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. So that could, according to that definition, according to that article, maybe they've worked it out now and it's more balanced. But at that time, there was a negative consequence. His wife was like, I can't handle this anymore. And yet he was like, and yet I will be going back to football.
Yeah.
I will be playing.
Because he never left. Maybe he changed up I don't know, but.
I don't either, but maybe she just is like, she shifted what her expectations were. Maggie said, I'm addicted to drama. K-drama? Or did you mean to put the K? I'm wasting time when I should be.
It must be a show. It says 2 episodes a day.
Oh, okay. So maybe like a reality show. So that is another type of addiction. It's distraction. So according to this definition, or to Gabor Maté, he's talking about why the addiction, not so much how the addiction, how to stop, but why is this person doing it? And so much of it is he's linking it back to suffering. Like it's the end point of a long process of some type of suffering, usually rooted in childhood. Some type of, and it's so interesting because he said it doesn't have to be like this big dramatic thing where, it was this horrible abuse but just a feeling as a child at some point that maybe you weren't wanted. And I think back to my dad and I'm like, he didn't really know his father. He didn't know who his father was. I don't know if he ever even met his dad. So think about a boy who is like, my dad didn't want me. He didn't want me. He left me.
Especially as a child, because that's the same thing when people go through divorce and things like that. It is how the child feels. It's not about what really was going on. The child makes everything about them. You're right. Divorcing because of whatever people divorce for these days. Meanwhile, the child is like, well, what did I do? Has nothing to do with them. But that I think that's key, what you're saying. As a child, how you felt, or something minor. As an adult, we look at it like that wasn't even a big deal. But you remember it. You guys think of something that you were like, oh my goodness, I remember that. That can have an effect. Not saying it's going to make you be addicted, but just saying that that's how powerful feelings can be.
Yep.
So besides the things that are, and probably can feed into other things besides, like sugar, coffee, TV,
Right.
there's certain things that because all of that, what you're
Yep.
saying is comes from pain, in which I think that almost everything does. It's some type of pain, some type of pain. I'm not being heard. I want to be heard, or I feel not good enough. I want to be good enough. Whatever. You dig all that back, even to someone who's angry, pain is underneath.
Yep. We're hearing coffee, sugar, Korean dramas. Okay, they must be really good, Maggie. But another thing he said was that because of all his work with addicts, he said it took away from the otherness of it when he worked with them, because he said, I'm not better than them, I'm better off, because his addiction was like, he had a shopping addiction. And he talks about, as a man, it was classical music. And he was supposed to deliver a baby. Instead of delivering this baby, he had, like, they called him up from the music store. They were like, we got some new music. Okay, he's got a baby being delivered. He goes down and he's there, and they're showing him more music. He knows this woman is in labor, and he said it wasn't like a conscious decision. It was just like, just one more, well, it'll be better. Just one more. And then he said when he got home, then he lied to his wife about it, because he couldn't tell his wife, I didn't deliver the baby because I went to go buy some classical. I mean, that sounds ridiculous.
Oh,
So it's like we have to look at it along that spectrum, because otherwise we start saying, oh, those people over there.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we have more people dying from tobacco smoke than any other illegal drug. Completely legal, freely advertised. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
That one's okay. That one's not, that one, I mean, obviously it's not okay, but that one's not nearly as stigmatized as these others. What is Shelley saying? I almost lost my son over a year ago. He was struggling, getting lost of drugs. Careful to keep, Oh, good. So a lot of the, So think about people that like died from overdoses. Like Michael Jackson, Prince, Amy Winehouse, like all these people, super talented, super talented people, right? So what do you think's up with that? I think like that their outlet, when they're on stage, that's their soothing. But then not, it's like, okay, I need something else. Because like when I'm performing, then it's like, it's great. I'm getting that, that's giving me that feeling that void. But then as soon as they get off stage, imagine like thousands and hundreds of thousands screaming for you, and then you get off stage and you're just regular. That to me, like, okay.
Regular with your regular pains, because everybody has some. And I think about people that like you said, stars, people that we know through the media, but we don't know them. But I think about people that I know that died from overdose. And I think, oh, and just growing up, I was around so much addiction. So I think that, it's when I think also it helps you to, if you deal with, if you are one to think you are better than, or they're hooked on this, or they're alcoholics, and it helps you to kind of dig back and think about they're dealing with pain.
Yes.
People are doing it different ways, but maybe that can help us to be more discerning, be more loving, be more caring, that they are dealing with pain.
Yep, absolutely. And what was the other thing he was saying? Was like food, like you said, we have to eat. We should work out. You don't have to have classical music. You don't have to have slick edges. Did y'all see the girl that put the Gorilla Glue? I know that this has nothing to do with addiction, but I'm gonna peel it back for you. I'm gonna peel that pain back for you. When Jacoby showed me, you cracking up. When Jacoby showed me the video, I was like, why do you believe that? That's some lies. And then he showed me her like trying to wash it. And then, this was days ago. And I'm like, this is for real. And then today,
I was like, you know what? You see these little kinky hairs with the gray and all that and the curly, the you know, you could take a pin just because it's not as kinky as mine, as curly as mine. You could take a pin and that little coil thing that's inside the pin, that's the coily nature of my hair. And they slick it back so hard that she was going to put some glue on it.
Because her hair product was called glue.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's supposed to do. Make your hair not look like it's supposed to look.
Well, exactly. And gel. Everyone knows what gel does, and you use it to slick things down and all of that. But we take it to a whole other level. And that, you know, if someone is addicted to that, you got to go back farther to what is going on with that. Well, we don't want our hair not to be not straight. You know what I mean? So I just, it's not a funny story because I'm actually worried about her scalp. But whatever lapse in judgment that she had to think that it was okay, and now it's been like that a month. Yeah. And I mean, that stuff is slick. Like, it's slick. So
yeah,
anyway, that was just a little segue. I just couldn't help but think of that.
I was like, just shave it off. And then I tagged my hair, the girl that cuts my hair, Julie. She's like, no, it's stuck to her scalp. Her scalp's gonna come off with it. They can't just shave it off. I'm like, ooh.
That's what I'm so worried. I'm so worried about her scalp. And people were like, she's crazy. The name of her product is glue. And I was like, maybe. She was like, I'm just gonna throw this on here. I'll wash it out later. I know that she wasn't trying to hurt herself. I mean, I hope she wasn't. I mean, I don't think she thought it through.
Come on. No, she didn't think it through because I have some Gorilla Glue right here. And I would not put this in my hair. Okay. I just wait until I can
just have some curly edges. You see these little kinks, these little naps right here. You'll just have you some, or you have nothing serious.
Needed to have a wrap like we have and just pull it back. Okay, Kathy, getting back to the maps. Kathy, great question. Is addiction genetic? So that's part of what Gabor Mate. So this is I've done a bunch of research, but I just really resonate with him. Because he talks about, think about this now. You're like my dad, let's just say. You have this feeling of not enough, of what am I worth if my father left me, right? So then to fill that void, you choose, at first you take a drink, and he's saying it's not a choice. Like, I'm going to drink to feel good. You have a drink of alcohol, which most people do as an adult. And for my dad, he drank it and was like, oh, that soothed that. Wow. For a minute, I got relief of that feeling of not enough.
Mm-hmm. Whether he puts it together or not, that's what.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to drink a whole bunch of this so I don't feel it like I'm not enough. It felt better. It was relieving. So then now he comes back home, and my brother and I remember my brother and I've told this story before. We would like try to dump out some of his vodka and put water in there. And like, I mean, I was just like, why can't he just stop? Like, he's messing up our family. And so what am I feeling? Why am I not good enough for my dad to like not drink all the time? So that's perpetuating that whole, the root cause of what's making him do it. And the consequence of what's doing it, they're the same. So what happens then? If he's doing what the root cause is, what's making him do it is causing that, it's going to get perpetuated generation after generation after generation. So the theory is that it's more of that than it is of a gene.
Than the actual, that's interesting.
Okay, so now, some people are going to be more disposed to have that feeling. Just like some people they feel that sense of relief with exercise, and someone else feels that sense of relief when they go shopping. That's more of a personality, just differences in our different personalities and what we like and preferences, which are all, developed throughout life. So according to him, it's not really this. He's not a big fan of it's genetic, because then he loves neurofeedback, which I love neurofeedback, And if it's genetic and you can't control it, then why are people able to do these neuromodulations like neurofeedback and have amazing results with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it might be genetics. So it's more, so yes, Kathy, it's more behavioral and more environmental than genetic. So you look at all of these, like you see like in our country versus other countries, or you see rich countries, or you look at the other, last night again, the coach of the Chiefs, his son, he's got issues with drugs and alcohol. He's had them before. He's got everything he wants, unquote, right? He's got a great job. He's famous. Why is he drinking? Why is he?
Yeah,
there's some pain there. So the pain, there can be genetic pain. Sure, there can be, pain, generational pain. But we're talking about pain usually in childhood, usually developing as a person is developing, they experience some type of.
Well, what about this? The person, because everybody has experienced some type of pain. Everybody has. So what about this? And then, like you said, they're predisposed for whatever genes that they talk about, which you're saying he is more like, I don't know about that. But say those genes that they talk about, plus that,
right?
Because everybody has pain.
Absolutely.
And everybody, I always, Justin, we were talking about this 2 weeks ago. I always think of people, and you guys all know this, you may know this in your own families. There's say you're raised with 5 kids, say it's just 2 of you. But if there's 5 and there's that black sheep, you know how the so-called black sheep who was like, it was terrible. They were this and they were that. And the 4 are looking at them like, what are you talking about? Our perception. You are just sensitive, whatever. That is the difference in what can happen with people. You can have that same exact situation, but this person is taking it this way. You know what I mean? I think everybody's seen that in families, and especially with polarizing, where the one person is like, this is what went on. What do you mean you don't understand that? And they're all looking like, you need to settle down and quit tripping.
Yep. That perception, different perceptions of the same experience, which, there isn't really any same experience because all of us experience differently.
Exactly.
But yeah, you look at Native American, which is a great example. Sandy says that generational pain. Same with African American, that generational pain, especially in the South. There's literal that's encoded, DNA encoded pain, like being whipped, being enslaved, having those atrocities committed towards you in all kinds of different cultures, that it's been shown scientifically that that's encoded genetically. So there's all kinds of reasons for people to have pain. But I love that Gabor Mate asked why the pain instead of, okay, what are we going to do about this addiction? What are we going to do about this pain?
Yeah.
And because then when we can do that, we can understand that. Now, just like it was mentioned, and several people said the same thing in the comments, it'll skip. Okay, so you're off heroin. Now it's sex, or now it's a different addiction because the pain's still there. You were able to, pry yourself away from that heroin, but now it's something else. And that's not an answer. You're still in pain. It's fascinating. Yeah, I think some people are more predisposed because Sandy, because Felicia and I were talking about, they talk about the war, Vietnam, and then before that too, how the narcotics were freely given to the soldiers for their injuries. I mean, they had horrific injuries, and they just kind of had as much morphine as they wanted when they were out there. But then when they came back to the US, there was only a small percentage that had trouble stopping using the morphine. And it was the ones who felt relief of emotional and psychological pain with the morphine, not physical pain. They felt a soothing of that psychologically. Not everybody felt that same soothing. Okay, what does Maggie say? I've traced it back for generation. I refuse to take one drink. Okay, that's my brother. My brother has never had a drink of alcohol that I know of. This last time I asked him has been years ago, but he's like, I will never have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
I will never take a narcotic medication. I will never take anything that could cause addiction because of our childhood. Me, I had no problem with it.
You like, bring it on. I got a little pain.
I think I can handle it, but I'm just saying, if not, I got support.
Oh, man.
I need a little margarita. But again, with alcohol, that's just like, that's another one that's not stigmatized. It's like, mom her wine and it's okay, and booze.
Oh yeah, that's like all the rage. I with everything about wine, and it's like, it was funny too because I was like, I don't drink wine much, but you keep saying that and you're laughing. I'm like, wait a minute, that don't even apply. I don't even drink wine much. Why am I like so? Yeah.
Yeah, but think about it, and it's like obviously shown, like in Facebook posts or whatever cute little memes, that the mom is drinking it to get relief from her life, like to escape.
Yeah. I said it about margaritas though, so alcohol. I said it about margaritas, so alcohol and Moscato.
Yeah. But it's like, it's a joke that the mom needs her wine because she can't deal.
You know what though? Just what's serious about that, and we could talk about all kinds of things that are serious, but I just doing research with breast health and people being able to break down their estrogens. A lot of people are struggling with that. They don't have any idea that they are because we're not trained on that. We're just like, oh, you got PMS, or oh, you're perimenopausal. We're basically treated like we're crazy, and we fall for it. Like, oh, mom's PMS or whatever. People, and for me, it was very different because I didn't grow up like that. I was raised by my grandmother, and I think that she was from the group, you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and they just dealt with whatever. My mom didn't really have that kind of stuff. My aunt didn't. My first one was my sister, and it was like, oh, wow, it's like that, huh? So I didn't have it. Then as I started to get it, the more research I do, alcohol is huge for you not being able to break down your estrogen. And when they find that out, which if you can't break down your estrogens properly, that's breast cancer, that's sore breasts, that's endometriosis, all of that can contribute it. Now, endometriosis doesn't come from excess estrogen, but it aggravates it. So if someone has it and they're like, okay, if you're gonna take that night of drinking, and I'm not talking about like over drinking, but if you're gonna take that night of drinking or have that alcohol, some people drink alcohol every night after dinner or whatever. You may not, once you do testing, like sometimes you just need to get away and see what happens. But if you go do all the testing, alcohol will mess you up every time. So then one of the doctors that I follow, they say, what about wine? It's alcohol.
It's like it's not alcohol.
Yeah. What about because it's not hard liquor. Well, what about the wine that's this low carb? It's alcohol. So what you're talking about, like you're saying, moms who are doing it, there's a connection to that's also messing up the physiology, let alone that they're like, oh, okay, let me just get away. Girl, give me this drink. It's like, but and then they do not want to hear it. I just saw her. She was like, they do not want to hear it. They're like, yeah, the red wine. You got to have a bottle and a half of red wine from France.
John, I just want to say hi to John. John, thank you for the shout out. John is the man.
Oh,
hey, John. I can't go to LinkedIn. I can't stream to LinkedIn, but I did stream to YouTube. So I'll tell you about John later. He has to hop off. And so does Karen. Thank you, Karen, for joining us. And I see you got to hop off, but it will be here on my timeline. It'll be on YouTube too. Please continue, Felicia.
Anyway, I was on my little rampage about that, but it just shows you how, and still you can go back to what's the pain that's going on that we're choosing to do that. When you find out you got PCOS, you have this, you have dirty, we all have dirty estrogens. Our body has to break down stuff, period. And
Kathy,
so it has to go down, huh?
Kathy says, what do you mean break down your estrogen?
Those metabolites from estrogen that your body produces or that we take in from our diets and all the stuff, your body, your liver has to be able to put it in the right pathway, and you have to be able to poop it out.
Yeah.
If you do not, it backs up on you and you have estrogen dominance. So many women are walking around with estrogen dominance and they're not told any of that. Can't go to the bathroom, drinking wine, but not having a problem. They're not an alcoholic. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But anyway, my whole point in even bringing that up was the fact it just hit when you said that, like wine is, there's t-shirts and all kinds of memes, big bottle, big wine glasses, all kinds of stuff about it. And then I'm looking on the other side when I see the trainings and people are like, well, what about, it doesn't matter. It's wine. And like I said, if you want the red wine, because, well, in France, this is what they do. It's like, okay, is your wine from France? And are you drinking a bottle and a half? How about you take some resveratrol or whatever? You don't need the alcohol. You don't need it.
I'm going to have to do some research on breast cancer and just like the link with alcohol, because that's interesting. We've seen that rise, that shooting up, and we know about, estrogen and all of the what do I want to say? The fake estrogens, and we know about all that, but just specifically alcohol, because of the amount of how much more people are drinking. It'll be interesting to see, because of last year, how much more people drank, and just in general. But last year,
yeah. Well, and you're taking up space in your liver. So that's why she's like, it doesn't matter. If you're going to do it, then just realize what you're doing, because there are plenty of people that are going to have a drink.
Yeah.
And some people are like, no. And when you see that, if you're like, what? I haven't even heard of that. Everyone in your family drinks, all your friends drink. And, and not saying alcoholics, some are, but just saying we're drinking responsibly. And you're like, what? There's lots of reasons not to. And if for some reason there is a problem with that, then what you're talking about as far as addiction, thinking about the pain, people that you give a woman a hot flash and she is like, what is this? Tell her to stop drinking. What?
Is that what you said, Felicia? What?
Oh my God. I didn't know. Thank goodness I wasn't drinking at the time. I didn't know that there was a connection. We know that alcohol is bad. We know that on a general level, but I never put it together with, you can't. I knew about breaking down estrogen, but that's about it. I didn't know about the different pathways and genetics, and I didn't know all of that. So we're not trained on that stuff.
Right, of course, but some people, it's so obvious, like they have a glass of wine in their face flush, you can see that's all hormonal. It is within minutes, so quick. But going back to like what you were saying about the pain, it's so important to to honor that, and to look at those connections and look at it as an overall problem, not like this distinct entity of alcoholism or addiction or whatever. Yeah. This overall problem of pain, emotional pain, because then now we can do something. But like with addiction, it's just, you've seen people that the end is usually not very good. How many times go through rehab? I've been in and out of rehab, and it's not really, the root of it is never really addressed. It's kind of, let's get you dry, let's get you clean, but the pain is still there. I just think, like you said, we need to be more understanding, and the more we can understand, because after this year, I think there's going to be a lot more born out of this, of people seeking relief from all kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. And it's just important to understand that shooting up heroin is not the only addiction. Snorting cocaine is not the only addiction. If you're doing something and it negatively impacts you, and yet you kind of go back to it anyway, that's on a continuous basis, that's addiction. And there's a spectrum. It could be, you got a house full of stuff, from wherever you shop. From Amazon, we got a room that's just an Amazon room.
Kimberly and them, or Shelly, are asking about the well, Shelly is saying xenoestrogens, yes.
Oh,
and then Kimberly is talking about Zendocrine. At the end of the month, I'm going to do like a 5-day breast health, and I'm going to talk about all that. I'll put the link in here. It's just a public group that anybody can be in. I'll put the link in here. We did a 30-day one back in November for our wellness community, and people really, really learned a lot. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to, because it takes a lot for somebody like me who doesn't like doing all that. But I like learning the information, but I don't like putting it back out in a nice format. So,
myself.
So I'm gonna bring. What'd you say?
You said I'll just keep that to myself.
Yeah, I'll just keep that to myself. I'm gonna bring it down to 5 to 7 days at the end of the month. So I'll put the link in here. Then you guys can join that group, and then you can see it because it goes into not a ton of detail, but it kind of gives you, like Kathy is saying, never heard of that. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Oh, wow. Shelly said one of her first patients to die when she was taking nursing was a million years ago. Had cirrhosis of the liver, and thinking, how could you have let it go this far? He was like 47. So I get that, because that's when I used to think that. And I also used to think with my dad, what did my grandma do to him? See, now she's gone too. I can say that. I would not be here if I said that while she was alive. She's gone too. And I would think,
but like being real, that makes sense. Like, oh, something bad must have happened. I wonder what happened.
I wonder what
happened to be.
But then his sister, my aunt, is normal. She's not alcoholic. She's got, she has never had any problems with addiction. That's his sister. So I'm like, well, did she target my dad and do something mean to him? And then I had to like really learn, and like that's another stigma that we have to really push aside, that somehow the parents were to blame for the person who has addiction, that there's somebody to blame for it, that we need to pin it on. But it's not. It's a lot of times the parents did the best that they could, and the kids still didn't feel it because they were under so much stress that they couldn't be completely present. And the child, even though they might have been there and served them and dressed them and fed them, the child felt that they weren't fully there because of the amount. And that's a thing. And so you can't blame the parent and be like, see, that's who did this. Mm-hmm. That doesn't help. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
So I had that, like, it doesn't help to say it's this person's fault and this is how it happened. It helps to say, why the pain? How can we help the pain? Not whose fault is it?
Yeah. And what can we do to heal?
Yep. And even the addict, like how Shelly said, blaming the addict, like Gabor Mate is like, he does not believe it's a choice. He believes it's something that becomes this, that's why I said a habit, extreme habit, that it's not something consciously chosen, because who's going to consciously choose to give yourself cirrhosis of the liver?
Yeah.
Who's going to choose that? That's something it's something that needs understanding, so that we can help people and support people, and not just push them further and further and further to the fringes, where then now, they're on the side of the street shooting up or whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I really resonated with what he said. I want to teach more on this. I want to do like a workshop, something. And if enough people are interested, I will. I just am fascinated by it, and I wish I knew as much as I know now when my dad was still alive. But it's kind of like now I can help other people. I can help other people from here on out.
So interesting to think of you, like you're saying, if you knew then, and when you said how many people have said if they have a parent that has a lot of problems, and they're like, oh, what his mom did to him or what his dad did to him.
Right. Yes.
And maybe some of that's true, but a lot of times you don't know. You're like, I don't know what happened, but it must have been right. What's that helping, like you said. So.
Right. Exactly.
Very
All right.
interesting, Jess.
Yeah, it's a very stimulating conversation, you guys, and I'm glad for you guys, the ones of you in the comments who were open enough to talk about your family and histories of different addictions in your family. Thank you for being open and honest and just vulnerable, because I know it's hard to say. Even if it wasn't you, it's easier to say when it wasn't you. And you're like, everybody else had a problem, but I came out. It's passing me up. My dad, but me, it didn't get me. But even so, thank you for that, you guys, and I'll definitely keep this conversation going. And what either here or whether we take it to a workshop or something, we'll talk about it more, because I think we need to talk about it a little bit more, flesh it out, and talk about what we can
know. We'll let them know when you do a workshop.
Yes. So I can share all the research and talk about practical steps for people both experiencing it and who have family members. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Our first YouTube dual stream was successful. I had 2 viewers.
I looked up where it was. I was like, I had to do a little smile.
Uh-oh.
I saw it.
Were you the viewer? I think we're the 2 viewers, you and me. But that's because we got to start somewhere. That's what John, the one that came on, told me. He's like, you got to get on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll double stream. Nope, can't stream to LinkedIn from here, but we'll figure it out.
He's like, you got to get on there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone is still watching. Someone is still, well, maybe not. I needed to refresh, but it was the last one it had live was still up there.
I think it's me. But hey, if you did, share the YouTube channel, Jessica Travis, because from now on I'll do that. I will live stream it to there too. If anybody knows people that don't get on Facebook, make sure. All right, guys. Thank you. Of course, you guys, you're welcome. You're welcome. And see you next week. And we're out.
Bye.